Which Bundesliga player should your favorite Premier League team buy? Part 2. Hey everyone, it is Finn here, that is FYWN, and I hope you guys are all doing super well. I'm in a pretty good mood. I've got my beautiful cup of coffee here on the side, and I've got my beautiful ring light back. I missed it so much. Can I have a minute?
1 minute, 37 seconds later.
And I hope you guys are all doing super well as well. That, of course, is important to me. Are you guys doing well? You having problems in life? Shh. He'll be okay, just sit back and watch. So yeah, as I said in this video, it is obviously a part 2 of this series where I'll be looking from 11th to 20th place on the Premier League table from Crystal Palace all the way to Norwich and talk about which Bundesliga player I think they should buy. Now, of course, I think the first video I did, obviously from 1st to 10th, were more mainstream players. Therefore, this might be a more exciting video because you might say, I never thought about it that way, but now I know. Guess I better subscribe. But sure guys, on a real note, this channel has been at a bit of a standstill for about a month subscriber-wise, and to get out of that rut, I'd really appreciate it if you guys did subscribe. I mean, my birthday's in about 2 weeks, so if we could get 750 to 800 subscribers before then, I'd really appreciate that. I mean, I can't go outside for my birthday, so I mean, can I at least have that? First team I have for you guys is Crystal Palace in 11th place, which there have been so many surprises on the Premier League table this season. I mean, there's definitely been, a good balance between teams overperforming and underperforming. You get the likes of Arsenal and Spurs, which not been great this season, and then Leicester and Crystal Palace in my mind have just blown away my mind absolutely. Now, if we look at this Crystal Palace side, there maybe are a few transfers that they could make. I was initially looking at a centre-back, but I think that they've got a pretty okay defense. I wouldn't say it's the best in the league, but I think they can do with it, along with a good goalkeeper. Ayew has done really well in that striker position, and he's actually surprised me. So I don't think he's the main concern at the moment. Wilfried Zaha, don't know how he got that Team of the Year card, but he isn't a totally bad player. So if I look at this team in total, I do think they need an attacking midfielder who can help get some goals forward and create some more chances, because goals are only scored when chances are created. Now, who do I think would be a really good one? Well, this is going to be a bizarre one, but I think Butius? I don't know. End of the day, they all just sound like a new KSI song. But yeah, Butius is a 26-year-old attacking midfielder from Mainz, and I think he would be a pretty solid option. He is not the greatest attacking midfielder of all time, but as I said, you can't expect the greatest players when you get from 11th to 20th on the Premier League table, because it's just not realistic as a buyer, and I want to make all these elements somewhat realistic. Otherwise, I would have just given Manuel Neuer to Crystal Palace. But yeah, I think Butius would be a good, solid option. He got 4 goals and 7 assists last season. This season, he's got 3 goals and 5 assists, which, yes, isn't the best season. It's in 7 less games than last season, but I still think that he is a good attacking midfielder. The season isn't over yet, and as I said, they don't need the best attacking midfielder in the world. You're not going to get Kevin De Bruyne to go to Crystal Palace. You just need at least a mediocre attacking midfielder, and I think this is especially a good option because Mainz currently in 15th place in the Bundesliga table out of 18 teams. That is not good whatsoever. Therefore, I do think it's a realistic buy that he would want to get away from there, and to a mid-table Premier League team might sound pretty good to him. 11th on the Premier League table is Everton, which I don't know how you've managed to be a mid-table team, Everton. 2-3 seasons ago, you became like Barcelona's second team. I don't get how you got Lucas Digne, how you got Yerry Mina and Gomez. How did you guys get so many Barcelona players? And you got like the likes of Wayne Rooney and Sigurdsson in that time, but yet you're still a mid-table team. I don't know how you guys managed to do that. It's really upsetting. But looking at this current Everton squad of what they need to buy, I think Calvert-Lewin has shown that he can be a proper Premier League striker. Richarlison, although celebrates like a pigeon, believe it or not, actually looks like a solid Premier League player. Once Gomez is fit in the midfield position for Everton, he is a solid option. And of course, as I said, they have Sigurdsson there. So I don't think attack or midfield is where they need to improve. And yes, Pickford, you can be a tiny bit dodgy to say the least, but I don't think you're the main priority to replace whatsoever. Fullbacks seem to be okay, so a new centre-back is what it is. I do think Yerry Mina is a solid option, and I think he's done super well for Everton, and he did really well at Barcelona. I don't know why they sold him. He did well in 2018 for Colombia in the World Cup, but you know what? If I look at the other centre-backs, Keane, not a solid option, and Holgate I think still has one or two things to learn, and I think that he could be in a future Everton squad. But I think in the meantime, maybe they could get a replacement just for 2 or 3 years while Holgate really adjusts into the player he needs to be. And who do I think that centre-back should be? I think it should be Hinteregger. I mean, that guy has done a solid job for Eintracht Frankfurt this season, and I think they would be more than happy enough to sell him. I mean, currently in 14th place, Frankfurt, you guys have seriously underperformed, and it's the same with like other teams like Southampton. You guys end up having really good players, and then you just sell them. Just stop it. Stop. I think Everton should get Hinteregger because 8 goals from a centre-back position is absolutely unstoppable. Less than 1 foul a game. I think that he is a good centre-back. He is 27 years old, so they could get a good 3-4 years out of him at least. And I think the Austrian would be happy to move there because he's spent his whole career in either the Bundesliga or the Austrian Bundesliga. Therefore, I think he would want to move to a big team like the Premier League. And I think Everton is a matter of they need just one more good player to be able to nudge up to almost a Europa League position. This is Newcastle United, which that has surprised me hugely. I didn't think Newcastle would do well this season. And with this whole billionaire buyover thing, I mean, I don't know if this is a good idea, guys, if this Newcastle buyover happens. Can you imagine Newcastle turning into the next Man City with the best players in the league?
It's a no from me.
Looking at Newcastle's team overall, I think Dubravka is a solid goalkeeper. Their defense, bit shaky, but I'd say it's good enough. Midfield, same. It could get some improvements, but it's good enough. Their wingers, they're okay, but a striker, I mean, Jolentine has, wow, he could not hit a barn door with a tennis ball. So yes, of course, I've gone for a new striker, and this might be a pretty bizarre one, but I think it's definitely possible if this buyover happens. I'm going to go for Volland from Bayer Leverkusen. Yes, the 27-year-old striker from Bayer Leverkusen has proven himself a world-class striker on many occasions. In the last few seasons, he gets up to 14 goals in the Bundesliga, which is pretty good, and I think the exact kind of striker that Newcastle needs. I mean, this season alone, he only has 9 goals, but he's got 8 assists as well. And that's only from 22 games. Those are monster stats, and I think that's the exact kind of player that is needed at Newcastle. But once again, if this buyover happens, then they could potentially get like a Lewandowski, which is just scary to me. 14th on the Premier League table is Southampton, which you cannot tell me that within a matter of years, Southampton went from being the team with Sadio Mane, Gareth Bale, Virgil van Dijk, to a team that lost 9-0 to Leicester City. That is just, that's just appalling. I don't know how that happened. But looking at Southampton's team in total, maybe they could use new defenders. Maybe they could use a new goalkeeper. Those are definitely things that they do need. But we saw towards the end of the season that their defense wasn't actually too bad. So oddly enough, I'm going to go for a new striker, which yes, I know they have Danny Ings before, because Danny Ings is a good striker. I think he needs to be in a strike partnership with someone so that they can go back and forth and really help each other out. And let's be honest, Shea Adams for Southampton, he's look more like he plays FIFA than actual football. So which kind of player would I go for? I'm actually going to go for player from Borussia Mönchengladbach, which might be my oddest one on this list, especially because player plays for a team that's going to probably be in the Champions League next season. But you know what, as long as I just remember the fact that West Ham signed Haller a season or two ago, I think anything's possible. But as I said, this is a very weird transfer that I do have in mind, but player got 12 goals last season. He's currently on 9 goals this season. He is a very good striker, but in my opinion, if Borussia Mönchengladbach really do want to compete for the title, I think they need a player that's maybe better than player. I didn't do that on purpose. If Borussia Mönchengladbach do want to really compete, they can't have a striker that only gets 12 goals a season. Along with that, player is 27 years old. He is pretty much in the prime of his career, but looking at the likes of Mbolo, the other striker at Borussia Mönchengladbach, he is much younger. He's in his early 20s and he's almost got like the same stats as player already, and I think they should more likely go for a player like him. I think that they could probably get a decent amount of money for a striker like player, and then they could end up buying another striker to play with the likes of Mbolo. As I said, player is a very good player, and maybe it's not the most realistic signing I have here, but you know what? I don't put it in the realms of it being impossible. If I had to look at this Brighton team, I would say they have a solid defense. I mean, what the hell? They've even got a Barcelona defender in there. They've got a pretty okay, I guess, midfield. Maybe they could get some improvements there. They've got not a world-class striker, but you know what? I think he gets the job done. And I I ask Brighton on subreddit? Yes, that is right. Sometimes I don't have answers, so I ask you guys. And Brighton fans seem to love the idea of getting Rashika, the 23-year-old Albanian wing from Werder Bremen. Yes, finally an Albanian footballer. That's one to add to your Pokédex. I'm a nerd, aren't I? Shika, as I said, only 23 years old, which is still very young, so he has a lot of really good footballing years ahead of him still. He's just, look, as I said, Werder Bremen not doing well. They're currently 17th on the Bundesliga table. But Rashika is a good player. 9 goals and 5 assists last season, 7 goals so far with 4 assists. It's not, look, world-class stats, but those are still pretty good stats. And for a team that's probably going to get relegated this Bundesliga season, I don't see why he wouldn't get out of there and move to the Premier League, because Brighton is a good Premier League squad. And I think it's a matter of them getting 1 or 2 really good players for them to really hit the next level of where they can potentially be. West Ham United is next, which, wow, how disappointing that they are so low down on the Premier League table. I mean, they've spent some sections of the season in the relegation zone, which I don't know how that happens. They buy so many world-class players and it doesn't work out. I mean, David Moyes not doing well at West Ham, guys. Everything's just falling apart for West Ham and you have to feel sorry for them. Now, me looking at this West Ham side, Haller hasn't maybe performed to the status that you'd assume a really good Bundesliga player to do at a team like West Ham. So you know what, maybe they have to get another Bundesliga player. And who do I think they should get? It is going to be a player that we've already seen on this list. It is going to be Biotes once again. I'm not going to go too much further into this because it's the same reason that I did end up giving Crystal Palace the same stats. They need someone to create chances for them. Maybe they could use new defenders, but you know what? I don't think their defenders are the main priority at the moment. Once Fabianski is 100% fit, I do think that it is a really solid backline, and I do think they need more chance creation, which they can get through Biotis. Watford is next, which, wow, they have really improved this season. To think that they only got like 1 or 2 wins at the halfway point of this Premier League season, and now they're out of the relegation zone. I don't know how they got that to happen, but looking at Watford, they've actually got a pretty solid squad. I don't know why they've done so poorly this Premier League season. Looking at the squad, look, eventually they will need a new striker, which, I mean, I'm not saying anything bad about Troy Deeney. Who knows? He could be there till he's 50. I mean, the man is still actually a beast if you look at him, which, hey, FIFA, make that happen. If I had to look at Watford, I think the one thing that they do definitely need maybe is another centre-back. Maybe they could use new full-backs, but I would say another centre-back is a solid option because I think Foster has had a great season in goalkeeper. He saved Watford on multiple occasions. Attack-wise, I think there are some really good young attacking wings that are coming through the system that are doing well at Watford. So new centre-back is what I'd go for. And I'm actually going to go for Brooks, the Wolfsburg centre-back. And I think Wolves has done a pretty solid job. He is hitting his late 20s. So, you know, they can't get too many years out of him. As I said, late 20s, he's 27. So maybe they could actually get 5 years out of him. So it's actually more than they would probably bargain for. He got promoted with Hertha Berlin in the Bundesliga. So it proves that he can be in a winning side at Wolfsburg, that are a team that is looking that like Finn. I can speak English, right? Wolfsburg, a team that is looking like they can compete in the Europa League next season. So you know what? I think Brooks is a solid option, and he's been a very reliable for both teams that he's played for in the likes of Hertha Berlin and, of course, as I said, Wolfsburg. So I would really go for that for Watford because I do think that maybe they do concede too much, and I do think Foster does really need some sort of support there in the defense. We move to the relegation zone, which is very hard to find players that will want to go to a relegated team, assuming that these teams do get relegated. But you know what? The first team I have for you guys is Bournemouth, which, how disappointing. Eddie Howe has been the manager of Bournemouth for ages, and yet they're not even a mid-table team. That is very disappointing. I'm not sure he's the right man for the job anymore. But yeah, looking at Bournemouth this season, without Nathan Ake in the centre-back position, they really did struggle, but somehow I don't think that's their main priority. Harry Wilson, the right midfielder, is only on loan from Liverpool and probably will be returning. Let's be honest, if you had to choose between Bournemouth and Liverpool, well, it's not much of a competition. But Harry Wilson has by far been their best player this season. Therefore, I think a new right midfielder is what they do need. And let's be 100% honest. If this team gets relegated, they're not going to get a very good player. They're not going to get like a Serge Gnabry, are they? Therefore, I think I've gone for what I believe is a realistic one. Another right midfielder in the likes of Kamada, the Japanese 23-year-old from Eintracht Frankfurt, who, yes, isn't as good, of course, as maybe a player like Harry Wilson, but you have to keep it realistic. If this team ends up getting relegated, they're not going to get the best of the best. Kamada in the Bundesliga this season, 4 assists and 1 goal. Not amazing, but if you look in the likes of Europa League, 6 goals in 9 games, it's much more like it. And if you look at stats like that, maybe Bournemouth players won't hang their head. Bournemouth, you guys are going to struggle to get a really good player because you haven't done that well this season. You might get relegated. But Kamada at the end of the day, I mean, a hat-trick versus a team like RB Leipzig. As I said, 6 goals in 9 games with 2 assists in Europa League. It's a very good competition, and to be able to compete in a competition like that, I think would give Bournemouth some sort of hope if they got a player like this. Aston Villa is second last on the table, which it is very, very sad to see Aston Villa fall. It's a bit like what we saw from Fulham the previous year, a team that spends lots of money once getting promoted to the Premier League and then goes straight back down, which is a pity because I like this Aston Villa team. They've got quality all over the pitch except their striker position, and that is what I am going to change because that really is what they do need. And maybe they'll need a new attacking midfielder because I can't see Jack Grealish getting relegated with Aston Villa. I'm sorry, Villa fans, but I think you agree with me. And what striker would I go for? Now guys, weirdly enough, this is a very high profile player I'm going for, but I do think it's realistic. The player I'm going for is Bas Dost. Yes, as I said, very weird one, and I'm taking a lot of Eintracht Frankfurt players here. I do know that, but that's only because the team has not done that well this season, but there are great individuals that I think would do well elsewhere. Bas Dost is realistic in my eyes because he is a 30-year-old striker. Not many big teams will want to sign a player like him. And a 30-year-old striker moving to a team that gets relegated, I do think that is somewhat realistic. And it's not like he's a bad player at all. I mean, at Sporting Lisbon in his previous season, he got 15 goals in 22 games. The season before that, 27 goals in 30 games. And the season before that, 34 goals in 31 games. And then before that, he was at Wolfsburg. He is actually a very good striker, and I do think he does deserve a chance in a team like Aston Villa. And we can't treat real life like FIFA, which is a thing I feel like lots of people do. They say, oh, once he hits 30, the decline starts. No, I think Bas Dost still has a good 2-3 years, and he would do a solid job at a team like Aston Villa. We get to the last team on this list. Now, it is very tricky, obviously, saying, oh, this player could probably play in like the last team in the Premier League, because let's be honest, no one says, oh, yes, one day I want to play for a team that comes dead last in the Premier League. It just doesn't happen, does it? But looking at the likes of Norwich, I actually have the perfect player in mind. But looking at this team, before I say who it is, look, obviously Pukki is a really good striker up front. They've got some really good young midfielders. They've got really good fullbacks. Look, I do think Krul, obviously getting a bit older, but I do think he's a good goalkeeper, and maybe they do need new centre-backs. But my main priority is another midfielder to, obviously play centrally. This is going to be a very weird one, but I'm going to go for the likes of Davy Klaassen. Yes, that is a very weird. Davy Klaassen, I was surprised to see he's only 27 years old. Yes, that's right. That player is as old as that player. How disappointing, isn't it? But Davy Klaassen is not a bad midfielder. 4 goals and 5 assists this season. Yes, it's not amazing, but a Werder Bremen player. Once again, I think Werder Bremen are going to lose a lot of players this season because I think they will get relegated. And Davy Klaassen was an absolute beast when he was at Ajax. He got so many goals, so many assists, but sadly when he moved to Everton, he didn't play that many games, and therefore he couldn't really show himself. I think he needs another chance to redeem himself, and I think Norwich would be a really good team to do that with. So guys, that is my list. I hope you have enjoyed it. Once again, if you're not subscribed, this channel has been at a bit of a standstill, and I would really appreciate it. As always, if you have liked this, please do press like on this video so that more people know about it, and share this video. I would appreciate it immensely. I hope you guys somewhat agree with some of the decisions in this video. I know some have been weird, but guys, check out those 2 videos on the side. That would help my channel out massively. I do love every single one of you. You guys are pretty awesome. This has been Finn, FYNN. Cheers.